मरघट तक है तेरी कहानी पग पग प्यारे दंगल 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 सूरज तेरा चढ़ता ढलता गर्दिश में करते हैं तारे दंगल 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 दंगल.
Great morning, my dear friends. Bhupesh Anand this side. We are doing prerequisites for CFA level 1 economics. We have covered first reading, that is named as demand and supply analysis and introduction. So I have delivered 7 lectures in that. So today I will be switching to new reading named as demand and supply analysis, consumer demand. So my focus area will be consumer demand. So this is again a very small reading, very important reading, a very prerequisite for understanding those main study sessions. So you should be very much attentive, you should be very much serious in attempting, in noting down or in preparing your notes, for prerequisites for CFL level 1 examination. Please take out your registers, my dear friend. And I have written a quotation for you. Knowledge empowers you. It is a knowledge which can bring you money, You might have heard in Sanskrit, Vidya dadati vinayam, vinayam dadati patram, patram dadati lakshmi, lakshmi dadati dhanam. It means with the help of knowledge, with the help of Saraswati, you can gather all the things in this world. So you should firstly empower yourself with knowledge. So let's start with the journey. Prerequisite for CFA level 1 economics. I am going to start with demand and supply analysis. Within that, a new reading, consumer demand. Now in this, I will be discussing these 3 learning outcomes. That what is the meaning of a consumer choice theory? What are the principles of consumer choice theory? And second is meaning of indifference curve. What are the meanings of different points in that curve? What is the actually dictionary meaning of indifference? And the third is marginal rate of substitution. That at which rate he is willing to sacrifice one good for getting another good. So this is marginal rate of substitution. So these are the 3 learning outcomes which I will be starting today in lecture number 1. So this is my lecture number 1 for demand and supply analysis. So this is my lecture number 1 for demand and supply analysis, consumer demand. Demand and supply analysis, consumer demand, lecture number 1. So let me start with lecture number 1. The first point which I want to clarify or which I want to tell you is in regard to consumer choice theory. In the demand curve which we have prepared, that is a negative slope demand curve, that is prepared on the basis of some assumptions, some principles. Now, if those principles exist, then only demand curve will be there, So what are those assumptions or what are the principles behind that? That is named as consumer choice theory. And we will be discussing with 3 principles in this consumer choice theory. And on the basis of those 3 principles, we always assume that those 3 principles exist, then only we can have a demand. So first point is consumer choice theory. So please take out your registers. First point, there are certain basic well accepted principles. There are certain basis well accepted principles known as axioms of consumer choice theory. It means we will be doing 2 or 3 principles of consumer price choice theory, and those 3 principles in combination will create a theory named as consumer choice theory. That in which product will be preferred, which product will be preferred by this consumer. If there are 2 products available, tea or coffee, Chinese food or South Indian, North Indian or Italian, then he has a choice and he can 100% confident with the choice. He can give the preference, So the first point is, it is only when these underlying principles are true. It means it is in the background, if this is the background music, these principles has to be true, then only we can draw demand curve, or then only demand curve will be possible, becomes more sensible, then only demand curve will be more sensible. So what is my principle number one? That is complete preference. The first principle is complete preference. As per this principle, it implies the buyer, the consumer can prefer one product over another product. As in case of restaurant, you are being offered with tea or coffee, so you can easily prefer that whether tea or whether coffee. So tea or coffee, you can give a preference. This is nothing but complete preference. You can completely prefer one product over another product. So please write down first principle, complete preference. Consumer is given a choice between product A and B. He must be able to prefer one product over the other products. He must be able to prefer one product over the other product. Tea or coffee, Chinese food or South Indian food. Principle 2, transitive preference. This is but obvious but logical. For example, you are preferring tea as compared to coffee, and you are preferring coffee as compared to soup, tomato soup. It is but natural that you will be preferring tea as compared to tomato soup also. It means if equation number 1 is greater than equation number 2 and equation number 2 is greater than equation number 3, it automatically means that equation number 1 is greater than equation number 3. Or I can say in simple words, if you are preferring A as compared to B, product A is being preferred as compared to B. This is transitive principle. There are three principles in consumer choice theory. The first is complete preference. You are able to prefer the subject, the product, which product you want. Second is transitive preference. That if product A is better than B and B is better than C, then it automatically means that A is better than C. So this is but obvious but logical. So please write down principle number 2, transitive preference. Now if these principles exist, it will give a more sense, it will give a more meaning to demand curve. So these are the hidden or background principles, that are named as principles of consumer choice theory. On the basis of that only we have created a demand, and demand curve has been drawn. So first is complete preference, second is transitive principle, transitive preference, and the third is just firstly write out principle 2, and product B is preferred to product C. Then product A is also preferred over product number C. It automatically means, it logically means that product A will be preferred from over product number C. Principle 3, non-satiation. Non-satiation. A consumer will always give preference to consume more than less. This is but natural. We always, if we are given the choice, the consumer will always prefer to consume more because it will give him more satisfaction as compared to less. So these are the three principles which we should be aware of, and these three principles in totality make up consumer choice theory. And on the basis of consumer choice theory, we can have a demand more sensible or more meaningful demand curve. So the first learning outcome I have just discussed, I think you must have been writing these notes. The first is consumer choice theory. The second concept, the second learning outcome which I am going to start is named as indifference curve. Please write down high 3 stars. Again, a very testable area for examination. No doubt we have discussed indifference curve something in portfolio management also. But when I say indifferent, it means you are indifferent. It hardly matters to you. It means you are remain same. You have so much patience. I will say indifferent. And the curve at which you are indifferent, that is named as indifference curve. Very simple logical concept. Supposingly there are two products. Just listen to me before writing. Please listen to me. Supposingly there are two products, product A and product B, and some units of product A and some units of product B are being consumed. Now, and it is giving you some level of satisfaction. Now, if you are in the same indifference curve, if I increase product number B units and decrease product number A units, and if you are still in the same indifference curve, it hardly matters to you. So just I want that please note down this indifference curve meaning. I have taken two case studies just to explain the concept of indifference curve. So please note down, a consumer has no preference for one combination or bundle of goods over a different combination. A consumer has no preference. Just write down, underline the words, highlight the words. A consumer has no preference. A consumer has no preference. A consumer has no preference for one combination or bundle of goods over a different combination. A consumer has no preference for one combination or bundle of goods over a different combination on the same curve. This word is important, on the same curve. For example, I have prepared three curves: indifference curve 1, indifference curve 2, indifference curve 3. So I have written these, I have plotted some 4 points in indifference curve 1. Now in this indifference curve 1, you will be either at this point or at this point or at this point or at this point. You will be indifferent at all the points. Similarly, if you are in indifference 2, curve 2, again if I am plotting 4 or 5 points, it can be any number of points. The point is that on the same indifference curve, you will be indifferent. No doubt, number of units of product A or one product is different as compared to, for example, in this point, product good X will be this much number of units and good Y will be this much number of units. At this point, this will be the number of units of good X and this will be for good Y. Good Y, this will be for X, this will be for Y, this will be for X, this will be for Y, this will be for X, this will be for Y, but you will be indifferent on all the points. You will be indifferent here, you will be indifferent here. It means it will not matter to you because you are getting more units of another good as compared to that. So it will not affect you, I will say. So that curve in which there are different points and those points you are indifferent, that is named as indifference curve. So let's see, have a case study. Now with the help of a case study, we can go in deeper into intuition behind that what is the actual meaning of a indifference curve. Suppose there are two goods and how it will be helpful to you in understanding the basic logics of the main study sessions. Supposedly there are two goods, one is product X and second is product Y, or product A and product B. So I will be representing one product in one axis and another product in another axis. Mr. A is comfortable in consuming. Supposedly, I have just taken a hypothetical example that Mr. A is comfortable in consuming 5 units of product A and 1 units of product B, supposedly, and or 4 units of product B and 2 units of product A. So if I decrease one product, then I am increasing the 1 unit of this. It means he is indifferent whether he is getting this or whether he is getting this, and this is named as indifference curve. The name is, in this curve, this is not a flat, it does not have a slope. It is not a curve, it is not a straight line. It is a curve. The curve, this is a curve, indifference curve. It means at this curve you will be indifferent at any combination of points. So let me start with just write down to complete this case study. This case study, suppose there are two goods, product A and product B, and Mr. is comfortable in consuming 5 units of product A and 1 unit of product B. Now Mr. A will be indifferent. Now Mr. A will be indifferent if 4 units of product A and 2 units of product B are being offered to Mr. A. Earlier we are offering 5 units of product A and 1 unit of product B. Now we are offering 4 units of product A and 2 units of product B. Again he is indifferent. So he will be indifferent. It implies that he will be indifferent between any point on the curve. Any point on the curve. He will be indifferent on any point on the curve. So this type of curve is named as indifference curve. Now you must be wondering that why we are studying indifference curve, how it will be helping us in economics. No doubt these are very valid questions. I will be telling you, have some patience of 2-3 minutes. Just see this case study number 2. I will be telling you why or what is the relevance of these indifference curves in real life. Case study number 2. Let us assume that two goods under consideration. Supposedly, I am taking a real life example. Let the bread and let the wine be two goods. And on one axis I am representing bread, x axis I am representing bread, and on y axis I am representing wine. Now you are consuming some units of bread and some units of wine. And if I decrease some units of wine and then I increase some units of bread, and if you are in the same indifference curve, it will not matter to you. You will be indifferent in that. For example, I have just given a star marking of this scenario, that in this scenario you are getting this much unit of wine and less number of units of bread. But in scenario 2, double star, you are getting less number of wine and more number of bread. You will be indifferent because you are in the same indifference curve. So please write down this case study. I am telling you, it is very important. Let us assume that two goods under consideration are bread and wine. Please prepare the graph. Suppose at point star 1, there is high number of units of wine, which we can directly see that there are high number of units of wine and less number of units of bread. And I have just told you, as compared to double star scenario, when we have less number of units of wine and more units of bread, it means there are two scenarios. One is star 1 scenario and second double star scenario. In single star scenario, there is more number of units of wine and less number of units of bread. In double star scenario, there is less number of units of wine and more number of units of bread is there. But still, this line is important, but still he will be indifferent at scenario 1 or scenario 2 because they are following in the same indifference curve. It is giving him the same level of satisfaction. You are getting a point? That's why he is indifferent. But if I change the curve, if I change the curve, it is giving her another level of satisfaction. That will not be same. I am talking that if it is on the same curve, then the points in that curve will give the same level of satisfaction. So let me start with the last concept of today's lecture, that is demand and supply analysis. Consumer demand, that is named as marginal rate of substitution. My dear friend, I have already told you, just see here from Google Baba, that what is the meaning of consumer choice theory. I have firstly discussed what is the meaning of consumer choice theory. And when I say consumer choice theory, there are three principles. And just see, the theory of consumer choice is the branch of this, but relates to preference to the consumption expenditure and to consumer curves. It analyzes how consumer maximize the desirability of their consumption as made to preference this, subject to this, by maximizing utility, and this consumption is separated from production. So therefore, the model make this preferences. The law of demand states that the rate of consumption falls as the price of good. It means the demand curve which is being there, it is based on three principles which we have discussed. The second point which I want to tell you is, again it is in relation to consumer theory, that what are the principles of consumer theory and how people consume. It again depends upon so many principles which I have just told you. The next point which I have just discussed is indifference curve. So I am seeing it from Wikipedia, that what is the meaning of indifference curve. In economics, an indifference curve connects points on a graph representing different quantities of two goods between this. That is, consumer has no preference for one combination of goods over a different combination of on the same curve. Underline the word, just see the word on the same curve. One can also refer to each point on the indifference curve as rendering the same level of satisfaction, because on that indifference curve there is a same level of satisfaction, whether you are there, whether you are here, whether you are here, whether you are here, whether you are here. If there is a same indifference curve, it will give you same level of satisfaction, but no doubt at different points their number of units are changed. So he will be still indifferent because he is getting the same level of satisfaction. Okay, preferences. So these are, I will say, the points which are to be taken into account. Now I have just drawn the the indifference curve. Just see, good X, good Y, indifference curve 1, indifference curve 2, indifference curve 3. There are three indifference curves and we have seen that. The next point which I want to tell you is today is marginal rate of substitution. What is the meaning of marginal rate of substitution? It means, I've just told you that in indifference curve, there can be different points in the same indifference curve, and you will be indifferent. The consumer will be indifferent. The person who is consuming it will be indifferent. But the point is, he is sacrificing 1 unit, or he is sacrificing some units of good X with gaining some units of good Y. At which rate he is sacrificing? For example, just I have taken the example of wine and bread. It means if he is sacrificing 2 units of wine for 1 unit of bread, I will say marginal rate of substitution for bread is more, because only 1 unit of bread he is getting for, and he is sacrificing 2 units of wine. It means he is ready to sacrifice 2 units of wine for getting 1 unit of bread. It means marginal rate of substitution for bread is higher than wine. So the same concept I want to tell you today. That these are the marginal rate of substitution. So firstly, write down A point. Then again, I will be telling you with the help of case study. This is willingness to give up one product to obtain another product. This is willingness to give up one product to obtain another product. It means I want to sacrifice with wine and I want to acquire bread. So this rate at which I am sacrificing this and I am acquiring this, that rate is named as marginal rate of substitution. The rate at which consumer is willing to give up wine to bread is named as marginal rate of substitution of bread to wine. Because I am getting more units of bread, and for that I am sacrificing units of wine. So it is marginal rate of, because I am substituting wine with bread. So it is marginal rate of substitution for bread to wine. You getting your point? Okay. The number of bread units one would be willing to give up for some number of units of wine is named as marginal rate of substitution of wine for bread. This you can also write down in this manner also. Please note down, my dear friends. I am again telling you, you have to prepare the class notes, and for revision purpose, for the examination purpose, these notes are more than enough. That's why I am not using any PPT and all that. For bread, just see the curve again I have drawn. A1 is the scenario and A2 is the scenario. Now at A1 there are more number of units of wine and less number of units of bread. But if I see A2, there are more number of units of bread as compared to less number of units of wine. So at which rate, how many units of wine are being sacrificed for getting one additional unit of bread? That is named as, because I want to substitute one product with another product, it is named as marginal rate of substitution. Just see, in case of bundle A1, this scenario is A1, this is A1. In case of bundle A1 scenario, there is too much of wine with less number of units of bread. So it means a person is drinking too much and eating bread very less. But in case in future he wants to have less wine and more bread, it means that then at which rate, how many units of wine he will be ready to sacrifice for 1 unit of bread, that is named as marginal rate of substitution. And if given a choice, consumer will be willing to give units of wine for 1 unit of bread. It means how many units of wine will be sacrificed for getting 1 unit of bread. It is named as marginal rate of substitution. So it is, so for substituting this, so hope you are getting the things, I have explained it with the help of diagrams. I have taken the Google, I have taken the help of this, I have taken the PPTs. No doubt I have prepared the PPTs for that. In the next lecture, I will be showing you all the PowerPoint presentations. But to my mind, if I prepare a handwritten slide for you, it will give a more, classroom coaching feeling, because you will be writing and I have already written that. So to my mind, my hard work will pay you, and it will help you be happy, be jolly, be cheerful. Friends, we have covered lecture number 1. In case of demand and supply analysis, consumer demand, I will be delivering one more lecture in this consumer demand, and then prerequisite for economics in relation to consumer demand, we are over with that. And then the next reading, the last reading of prerequisite for economics, that is demand and supply analysis in relation to firm structure. That basic part we have to cover, and then we will be moving to main study session. Be happy, be jolly, be cheerful.